Digital Health Conference. Today we've got Atomo Diagnostics on the line. Atomo is a specialist medtech device developer supplying unique and proven rapid diagnostic test devices. The company, which is backed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Global Health Investment Fund, has exposure to several large target markets and is currently working on self-testing blood kits for COVID-19, following interest from diagnostics companies in China, Europe, and the US. We have John Kelly on the line, who's the Managing Director and CEO of Atomo Diagnostics. For more than 20 years, John has championed the cause of reimagining medical devices to enhance their usability and performance. And as always, to submit a question, please type it into the Q&A box on the bottom right as John presents. Over to you, John.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much and for the opportunity to talk today. And as you will all no doubt be aware, we listed on the ASX quite recently, and to all new shareholders who've joined the company that are listening in on behalf of myself, the board and the staff at Atomo, welcome to the company. I'll just use today's presentation really to try to get everybody up to speed with the Atomo story, where we're at, and more importantly, where we think we can go with this very exciting opportunity. So in terms of summary, Atomo is really a medical device company that's trying to disrupt the point of care diagnostics market by delivering a next generation level of usability. And the reason for that is that up until we came along, diagnostics, lab-based products were very much chemistry set type solutions that weren't really fit for purpose when they were used in doctors' offices, in pharmacies, and increasingly in the home. And Atomo has gone about trying to really consumerize that solution so that we can deliver a much more user-friendly, reliable, and an acceptable to the market solution. And we've been, to date, very successful in doing that. We have products approved for HIV, both professional use and self-test. In fact, it's the only HIV self-test that's been approved by the Australian TGA. And it's also one of a very small number of products that's been pre-qualified by the World Health Organization. And that validation of our technology and the success we've had with HIV has really underpinned the business and been the catalyst that's allowed us to take the product to market and the business to market. And I think it's also put us in a very, very good position, both product-wise and also market-wise, to really deliver some impact for COVID-19. We've sold more than 1 million devices over the last couple of years, so it's not an R&D project. It's a well-proven, well-validated product that has not only regulatory approval, but very good user feedback and very good performance in the field. We have a number of long-term supply agreements in place for HIV, the main one being with Mylan Pharmaceutical, a very large US pharma company. They are a global leader in the supply of HIV drugs to the world, and for them, a very usable HIV self-test was a natural product extension. We've also got distribution in Europe and a number of OEM customers. They're customers that buy our devices and use them for their own diagnostic products. And we've been successfully growing that business over the last 18 months, and COVID-19 is the latest and probably the biggest opportunity for that business. We received a number of inbound inquiries from companies, as mentioned, across the world to access our technology specifically for COVID-19. And we've been in active discussions and remain in discussions with a number of parties to ensure that our device is made available globally. And we're working very hard in parallel on the supply side to make sure that we can expand our capacity to deliver the volume, both for having impact in COVID-19 as well as obviously delivering sizable revenue growth for the business. And as was mentioned, we've very recently come to market in quite turbulent market conditions, but with a very successful IPO. And we're now well capitalized and really excited about the next phase of our journey. In terms of kind of highlights, I think from an investment perspective, it's the world's first fully integrated consumer-friendly device for delivering rapid blood testing and antibody testing. And that's obviously now a very commonly known application, particularly with COVID-19 pandemic putting testing front and center in terms of media. Lateral flow itself is a very well accepted technology for delivering rapid tests. Hundreds of millions of tests manufactured and sold each year. We've been able to secure multiple revenue streams and revenue streams across multiple diseases, which gives us good redundancy, and we're not dependent on any one product. Devices are well established in the market with regulatory approval, and we have a very strong IP portfolio and a lot of proprietary know-how as to not only how the product works, but how it's manufactured. And we've developed and validated our own proprietary manufacturing as well. And now this puts us in a very, very good position to be a market leader for delivering professional use COVID-19 testing, but also I think possibly to be the leader in self-tests where our devices have proven their utility now for HIV. I won't dwell too long on the history of the business, but really we started in 2010. 2014, we won the Best in Show at the Medical Device Excellence Awards, the first time an Australian company's ever won Best in Show. But more importantly, the first time a diagnostic product ever was awarded Best in Show. And off the back of that, we were able to secure significant investment, support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, investment from the Global Health Fund, which has been a cornerstone investor, and then more recently through institutional and retail investors as we've come to market. But really that technology development and validation has transitioned from 2017 onwards into a more commercial focus. So getting product approvals, getting consumer agreements in place, getting professional use agreements in place, and starting to roll out the business with product launches and now a sizable scale up in rollout of volume. So we're very excited about that journey, and we feel that a lot of risk is off the table, and now we're ready to look to grow to be a global leader in terms of products in the market for testing. The product itself is a pretty simple concept. Instead of a bits in a box chemistry set, a lab test with lots of accessories, we've taken that functionality and integrated it down into a single device, which means there's much less steps for the user. And importantly, there's much less ability for the user to do the testing correctly. So we get very good usability because we've taken the confusion and the decision-making out of the user's hands. You press your finger against a lancet, you bleed into a cup, you press a button to activate the buffer delivery, and you get your result. So very, very simple and very, very suited to home use. The steps of use are well proven. We've had very good success with HIV. Our partners have had very good success with their pregnancy test, with their antimicrobial screening test. So we know that we can deliver a very broad range of blood-based tests on the platform. It's very flexible, and we were able to prove this by quickly pivoting to COVID-19 in the last 2 months, and we've gone from first inbound inquiry to a launched product in Europe with our partner NG Biotech within 8 weeks, and we're very proud of that efficiency to get to market quickly. We have 2 business models. One is finished product, where we are the listed manufacturer of the product. That's our HIV business, but we are looking to expand that over time. And that's where we are the listed manufacturer. We hold the regulatory approvals, and we then give the product as a white label for other healthcare companies to distribute on our behalf, but we are the manufacturer. On the right-hand side of the slide, we have an OEM business, and that is a business where we sell our device to other diagnostic companies, and they put their own test strip into that device, and they use that for their own products. And that is a model that we can scale up quite quickly, because under that model, we're not paying for the clinical trials, we're not paying for the regulatory approval costs, and we're not paying for the go-to-market costs. But what we do get from that model is a long-term critical supply contract into another company's products. And obviously, once they've got regulatory approval, they want to ensure they've got access to our platform for an extended period. So we have been quite successful in getting those contracts over a longer period. And that gives us good annuity style business over the longer period. I'd also point out that we've got some very credible partners, both in terms of healthcare distributors of our products, as well as diagnostic companies looking to access our devices. Just to give you some idea of the breadth of opportunity that these technologies can support. Obviously, COVID-19 has been mentioned. The size of that opportunity, the need for that product doesn't need to be talked about here. It's on every newspaper and every TV screen. But certainly, we feel our device can have significant impact in professional screening. But more importantly, I think possibly the leading test solution for self-tests, and we're looking to try to roll that out very actively now. The HIV business, which has underpinned our journey to date, very sizable, high volume opportunity. We've got very good partners. We've our own facility that's been qualified in South Africa to really allow us to grow that HIV business, which we think over the longer term is still a very sizable and profitable business for us to be in. And then one of our OEM customers, Lumos, has a product that we support exclusively with our device. That's a screening test that distinguishes between viral and bacterial infection and can be used by healthcare workers to decide whether to prescribe antibiotics. Antibiotic overprescription, now a major issue. So we see these high value opportunities where our device is critical to the success of the product. And we are looking now to scale the business across multiple segments of high value in these types of areas. With regard to COVID-19, antibody rapid testing sits alongside the lab-based molecular testing. And the reason for that is that antibodies build over time. So these tests become very accurate in the second week and the third week and over a longer period, and can be used to detect who's been exposed to the virus, who has antibodies to the virus, and who may have a level of immunity moving forward to the virus. The molecular tests used in the lab for acute detection of COVID-19, their efficiency deteriorates over time as the viral count in a patient's blood and system drops off. And those tests are not as good at determining who may have been infected 6 weeks ago or 6 months ago. So that's where we see rapid testing as being critical. We're very fussy, I suppose is the word, about which tests we allow onto our platform. We're working with a couple of very high quality partners primarily in Europe and the US to make sure that the products that come to market on our device are the best in the market. We want to be there for the longer period, and we're very focused on making sure that the performance of those assays on our device is acceptable not only to the market but acceptable to us as the provider of the device that supports that. And we're very encouraged by the performance of the NG test, and we think it's got a good opportunity to be a leading test in the market over the longer period, particularly as it's delivered on our device, which adds significant usability and reliability in the field. That's the NG test with our device being used on French TV. I think 14 million people watched that live test, and off the back of that, NG's started to roll out in France. They've made several orders to the French Ministry of Health, and we're very bullish about the demand in France for the product. And we're looking to obviously talk to NG about expansion of those territories beyond the original agreement of UK and France. And we're also in discussions with another two parties as to opportunities in North America. In addition to that, we're looking to get agreement from our partners to be able to bring product back into Australia, and we're in discussions locally as to how we would go about getting the product launched here. So we think COVID-19 obviously forms a very large part of our growth over the coming not just year, but several years. I think our thinking of this opportunity is that it's not going away anytime soon, and it is a product that will be needed for a number of years, we believe. The product itself is very suited to self-test. It's the only TGA approved self-test for HIV. We've been able to put the COVID test strips into our device without modification, which means we are able to deliver that same level of proven usability for COVID-19. And we're looking with our partners to get our product to market as the leading self-test solution, which we think will be important over the longer period for population management, for the detection of hotspots, and also for any type of immunity passport program should they prove feasible. And the jury's still out as to what level of immunity people will have, but certainly a home test is instrumental to the ability to roll that out. Our IP is very broad. We have patents, 5 patent families, all granted or pending in major jurisdictions, and not just in large developed markets. We've also patented in any country with a large population, so places like Brazil, India, China, Indonesia, Russia. So we're very, very confident in the security of our IP and our proprietary know-how, and we believe that puts us in a very good position as a market leader to be disruptive. Our half-year numbers through to 31 December, we're just under $1 million of revenue. That's more than double all of last year, of financial year 19's revenue. So we're already seeing a step up in revenues as we start to roll out our HIV contracts. Obviously, the COVID-19 revenues are not included in this number, and they will be additive to the scale up. So we do think that our revenues now for 2020 through into 2021 will be growing very, very rapidly. So we're very confident about that. Our gross margins are also improving as we reach economies of scale, and the gross margins we've been able to secure for COVID-19 contracts are higher than our average gross margin. So we're also very, very happy with that. We've put our board together for listing. We have had some board renewal. We've had a number of non-execs with ASX experience come onto the board. We also have a long-term commitment from Dr. Kurt LaBelle, who's the president of the Global Health Investment Fund. That's a fund that was set up by JP Morgan and the Gates Foundation, and has a number of very credible partners in the fund, including a lot of large multinational pharma companies. So that's a very good validation of the business, and having their support on the board, very instrumental as we roll out globally. Our capital structure, it's available online, but we're very happy with the capital that's come in. It allows us to grow the business. It allows us to do the things that we want to do in terms of scaling up of capacity, as well as bringing on new products. We wanted to come to market to really roll our technology across a number of high value segments that we think are of interest. Consumer health, over-the-counter medicine, doctor office, telemedicine-based solutions, as well as areas like veterinary. And these markets we now have capital to launch products into. And COVID-19 has come along at a point where we are well capitalized and able to respond quickly, and we're very excited about that. So in terms of just a quick summary, we think it's a de-risk product. We think it's well proven from a regulatory perspective. It's well proven from a customer perspective, and most importantly, it's well proven in terms of its commercial attractiveness for healthcare companies. And that is something that we're looking to capitalize on. We have a good quality board. We believe we have a good quality management team with plenty of experience, and runs on the board at getting these types of products scaled up. So we're in a good place, and we're very excited about the journey.
Thanks very much, John. That was really informative. You're obviously a very popular guy, and it's a popular company right now. We've had quite a lot of questions come through in the last 15 minutes or so. So I might just fire away at you.
Yeah, please do.
In the announcement the day before listing a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that you were in discussions with 2 US companies and Chinese. How is that going now? How's it progressing?
It's still progressing well. The discussions are very positive. Part of that discussion is not only a commercial discussion, but a technical discussion around the performance of their test strips on our device. We want to make sure that the tests that come to market on our device are the best in class. So we're working with partners and evaluating the different levels of performance to make sure that we pick the right partners, because we're in a very good position. There's only one Atomo with this solution. There's a number of companies that have assays that they want to put on the device. So it gives us a good opportunity to make sure that we get the right products on our platform, and also secure the right commercial agreements in terms of exclusivity, potential take or pays. So that's all progressing well, but it is a complicated multi-jurisdictional discussion and takes some time.
And that's the COVID-19 device specifically, isn't it?
That's specifically for COVID-19 contracts. That's
yeah. And when do you expect to obtain regulatory approval from the Australian government in particular?
We've had discussions with the TGA. They're very supportive of us putting an application in. We feel we've got a track record through our HIV program. We've been audited by them. We're on the ARTG for infectious disease manufacturing of rapid tests. So I think that we're in a good position. I think it would be weeks rather than months. It would be my thoughts, but obviously it's subject to the TGA, signing off on that.
Mm-hmm. Who are your biggest competitors in the COVID testing market, and how do they compare, and how far along are they in development and delivery compared to you?
That's a very good question. So, I mean, there's a lot of speculative companies pulling tests out of bottom drawers, and a lot of them have come to market under emergency approval without necessarily having a lot of clinical data behind them. Certainly, most of them don't have third-party clinical data. And when a lot of these products are being tested by third-party evaluators in the UK and in the US, and recently the Doherty Institute here, a lot of them are proven to be not nearly as reliable or performing as well as they claim. And I think a lot of them are going to drop out of the market. We're working with leading companies in Europe and the US who I believe will deliver a better level of performance and a better level of quality. You add that to the fact that they're the only test coming to market on our device, which is proven to really add usability and value. And I think I would hope that we would be the best product in the market in there for the longer period, particularly within self-test where usability is critical. So there are competitors in the market. Do I see them as apple for apple competitors? No, I don't think their performance usability is close to ours.
And you're unique on the ASX, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
How long do you think realistically you'll be selling the COVID-19 devices for? That's another question that's come through.
It's a very good question. It's not one that I can answer with any kind of definitive response, but the people we're talking to are suggesting it's several years of need. We know of some COVID-19 supply contracts that are being locked in for supplying to the US that are 3 years in duration. So I think the public health bodies are not thinking this is going away in terms of testing. I think if waves of infection come and go, the need for population testing remains through that period. And the epidemiology suggests that this will be a seasonal disease that stays with us for a number of years, if not indefinitely. So I think until everyone in the world is vaccinated, which is, years away, I think testing will be needed.
Mm-hmm. John, could you add some color on the per unit price with the NG Biotech agreement? You've mentioned $20 in the past, but what is the white label or partnership or wholesale per unit pricing so we can understand the potential of this agreement?
Sure. I mean, we're not at liberty to disclose, individual contract pricing terms. The $20 that's being discussed in the market is the price that we transfer our finished product through to clinics for HIV in Australia. And that's consistent with pricing in developed markets. But that's pricing for finished product. Obviously, that's the finished approved test through the distribution channel. That's not the price that we would secure. Sorry, excuse me. That's not the price that we would secure in the OEM business where we sell our devices to other companies that then need to put on their strips, pack the product, get it approved and get it to market. So there is obviously a margin share in the OEM business because we're transferring it through to another company. Mm-hmm.
We did have a couple of questions come through about France in particular. Can you provide commentary on the extension of testing in France and how that's coinciding with the NG Biotech? I understand that it has been a hotspot in Europe, and we're hearing more and more about France. But the lockdown may be they may be coming out of lockdown in the next couple of weeks as an agency.
Yeah, they're trying to ease restrictions on lockdown, but their outbreak has been pretty severe, and the rates of infection, the rates of testing have been quite high. My understanding is that NG have had a second order from the French military, and some of those tests have gone to the French aircraft carrier, where about 70% of the sailors were positive or thought to be positive. So there clearly is a very sizable need for testing in France, and the French government, French Ministry of Defense, the French Ministry of Health recognize that. And NG as a French manufacturer with very, very good performance, that test-wise, is in a very good position to be the supplier to that market, and we're obviously very keen to support them. We see that being a very sizable opportunity.
What is the current manufacturing capacity for the tests? How many millions of test kits? And how can you ramp up so quickly to meet the demand from COVID-19? It's crazy demand right now.
Yeah. Well, obviously that's our rate limiting step, I think, is capacity. Yeah. Luckily, we actually had implemented a scale up of capacity earlier in the year before COVID-19 came along to support future growth. And that was why we wanted to come to market to continue that. So we had a bit of a head start. We had 300,000 cassettes in stock that we were able to transfer to NG Biotech immediately. We've had a second order go through the system. We have additional capacity coming online in July. We have further step-ups in capacity coming through the system in October and December. So we believe that we'll get to a very high level of production capability by the end of the year, and that journey is already in process, and we'll see a sizable step up in volume even as early as July.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you touched on this before on the presentation, but another question that's come through, what are the numbers around the two channels of OEM and direct in terms of profit margins?
The profit margin for finished product really depends on where we sell it. So the profit margin on HIV product into Australia or Europe is significantly more than it is into our large volume supply contracts with Mylan. But then again, Mylan have significantly larger volumes because they're talking about global contracts. So the margin in finished product is not even, depending on the country it goes into. The margins for OEM, in our half-year results to 31 December, we had gross margin average of about 48%. We said at the time that we felt that could go higher with volume. Obviously, OEM contracts for COVID-19 that have come along subsequently have been at a premium, so our margin has stepped up well from that high 40. So we're very happy with the margin over the longer period.
Mm-hmm. Can you get anyone else to manufacture the COVID testing kits in particular? If demand is, there's such high level of demand.
No, I mean, it's a very good question. If demand gets beyond our ability to roll out, then we don't want to have the opportunity limited by that. We are in discussions with our potential partners for COVID-19 about an option to do a tech transfer over the longer period, which would allow them to manufacture some additional capacity under license. So I think that would be a natural stage 2 once we start to roll into those contracts. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for presenting today, John. You've covered so many bases. I know that we've had a lot of questions come through. So if anyone has any more information and it wants any more information, obviously they can find you on the ASX. And congratulations on the listing a couple of weeks ago as well.
No, thank you. Thanks for the time to talk.
Thank you.
Welcome.